unfortunately, classical music is a bit racist.
Well, it's absolutely remarkable, Mike, isn't it? Of all the wonderful things you could learn about classical music in terms of um, the different parts of it, different arrangements, its development over centuries. Ultimately, students here are being taught about why it's a bad thing, and ultimately about its Eurocentricity, the dominance of white male European figures in the genre, even though there's other music genres which are dominated by other racial and religious
Yeah,
groups. So I think that what it's a very unhealthy approach to music, especially some of the most beautiful music composed. And I
right.
think it's a real shame that identitarianism has wormed its way in a discipline which I think we should be appreciating the beauty that can be created by human beings.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, they keep inventing new words, don't they? I've got one here. If you do this course, you're educated on the
Mm,
whiteness and heteronormativity
normativity, yeah.
expected of classical musicians. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know what the heteronormativity of classical musicians is. I don't really care. I mean, Johann Sebastian Bach may well have been non-binary for all I know, but he wrote some pretty decent music, and I quite like listening to it. Same goes for Beethoven. Same goes for any number of other people you could mention. I mean, Wagner, which was a favourite, of course, of some rather unsavoury people throughout history, might not have been somebody you might want to have a cup of tea with, but the music's all right, isn't it?
Well, that's the whole point. Is that when you listen to the music, I don't think it would be really wonderful. I had a cup of tea with this composer. I think it's ultimately about appreciating the music, and I think if you're taking a studious, academic approach to it, as I said before, in terms of how that music was developed, how
Right.
it was constructed, how classical music changed over time, and it, you could talk about how it may have been politically influenced
Mm.
in those particular parts of time, in those various parts of history. But I think here what you're seeing is, and I think one thing I really take issue with is this idea that students are taught how their racial identity, their sex, and their sexual orientation might impact their career trajectory, especially if they were to take a career, if they wanted to pursue a career in music.
Mm.
And I think that's actually a very unhealthy approach, to be honest, that this idea that depending on this particular protected characteristic, that your career trajectory has basically been decided for you in one of the most meritocratic societies on earth. I think that's actually a very unhealthy messaging indeed, and something which I certainly don't think should belong to academic disciplines focused on classical
Yeah.
music.